Throughout history, numerous individuals have claimed to receive divine messages, but few accounts are as intriguing as that of Saint Faustina Kowalska. In the final months of her life, she documented a 3-day spiritual retreat dictated directly by Jesus Christ himself. This retreat, given just before Pentecost in 1938, contained 25 crucial secrets for overcoming spiritual warfare. What makes this revelation even more astonishing is that it was not meant for her alone, but for every believer facing the relentless battle between good and evil. If such powerful guidance was provided by Christ himself, why do so many still struggle in their spiritual battles? Could it be that the reason behind our failures lies in misplaced confidence and lack of true surrender to divine will? The answer is clear. Many rely too heavily on their own strength, assuming they can resist temptation through sheer willpower. However, as Saint Faustina recorded, Jesus' first lesson in spiritual warfare was never to trust oneself, but to place complete faith in God's will. By doing so, we acknowledge our limitations and invite divine strength into our struggles. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. The fight against evil is a reality that cannot be ignored. The adversary, envious of humanity's divine inheritance, relentlessly seeks to lead souls astray. This conflict has existed since the beginning of time, as seen in the enmity between the children of light and the forces of darkness described in Genesis. It is a battle that does not pause, and ignoring it only leaves one vulnerable. Saint Faustina's experience exemplifies the necessity of divine guidance. Before her retreat even began, she demonstrated unwavering obedience, refusing to proceed without the approval of her superior. Even when Jesus assured her that permission had already been granted, she waited until the official confirmation arrived. This act of trust and patience illustrates the importance of humility and submission to God's order, principles often overlooked in modern spirituality. Jesus' words to her were clear. Without full reliance on divine will, no victory is possible. Many believe that resisting temptation is a matter of personal discipline, yet history and scripture repeatedly show that human strength alone is insufficient. The moment one places their confidence in their own abilities rather than in God's power, failure is almost inevitable. Saint Faustina's recorded words serve as a timeless lesson. Reliance on God is not an option, but a necessity. Those who approach spiritual warfare with pride and self-sufficiency are destined to falter. Only through surrendering to divine will can one find the strength to resist temptation and persevere in faith. Trust in God is a virtue that becomes particularly challenging in times of tribulation. When faced with personal hardships, whether illness, marital struggles, or uncertainty, many instinctively try to take control. The fear of the unknown leads people to rely on their own reasoning rather than surrendering to divine providence. However, as emphasized in spiritual teachings, true trust is demonstrated precisely when the situation seems hopeless. We all encounter moments when life feels overwhelming and solutions seem just out of reach. In these times, proper knowledge and spiritual guidance can make all the difference. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and wisdom through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. Jesus' guidance to Saint Faustina reinforces this principle. He assured her that in moments of abandonment, darkness, or doubt, she should turn to him and seek counsel from her spiritual director. This advice underscores the importance of not battling internal struggles in isolation. Spiritual warfare is not meant to be fought alone. Those who attempt to do so often find themselves overwhelmed, discouraged, and spiritually exhausted. The analogy of a pressure cooker illustrates this well. The more a person suppresses their struggles, the greater the internal pressure becomes. Without an outlet, the weight of unspoken burdens can lead to despair, anxiety, and even physical ailments. This is why Jesus instructed that difficulties, particularly spiritual struggles, should be shared with a trusted guide. A confessor or spiritual director serves as an instrument of divine mercy, offering guidance that is not merely human, but inspired by grace. The importance of seeking counsel does not negate the need for discernment. Not every individual in a position of authority embodies holiness, and some may even lead others astray. This is why selecting a mentor devoted to sanctity is crucial. A true spiritual guide does not distort doctrine to fit personal interpretations, but upholds the truth with love and wisdom. Temptation is another battle that requires vigilance. One of the most fatal mistakes in spiritual warfare is engaging in dialogue with temptation. This was the error of Eve, who entertained the serpent's words instead of rejecting them outright. Jesus' instruction was clear: do not negotiate with temptation. The moment an individual entertains sinful thoughts, rationalizes them, or seeks ways to justify them, they are already standing on dangerous ground. Instead, the response should be immediate, closing oneself in the heart of Christ. The enemy preys on hesitation, using doubt to weaken resistance. The longer a temptation lingers in the mind, the stronger its grip becomes. This is why Jesus advised Saint Faustina to reveal any temptation to her confessor at the first opportunity. Even if no sin has been committed, simply voicing the temptation breaks its power. Confession is more than a ritual of seeking forgiveness, it is a means of receiving strength. Each time an individual confesses, they receive not only absolution, but a renewed grace to resist future attacks. Those who hide their struggles out of pride or fear deny themselves the supernatural assistance necessary to overcome spiritual battles. Humility is the cornerstone of victory. Many resist asking for help because of self-love, an unwillingness to admit weakness. This resistance often leads to greater spiritual failure. Recognizing the need for divine assistance is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. Fasting and mortification have long been recognized as powerful weapons in spiritual combat. Jesus emphasized that some evils can only be overcome through prayer and fasting, showing that self-denial strengthens the soul. Yet, mortification extends beyond abstaining from food. It is about rejecting comfort and embracing discipline. In a world obsessed with convenience, even small sacrifices become acts of resistance against spiritual complacency. In challenging times, having the right guidance can make all the difference. A free ebook is available to help strengthen your faith and bring clarity. But copies are running out fast. Get yours now in the first pinned comment. Modern society promotes ease at every turn. Automated services, instant gratification, and constant comfort weaken the will, making even minor inconveniences unbearable. True strength comes from self-control. Simple acts, choosing stairs over elevators, resisting complaints, or accepting discomfort, train the soul for greater trials. Without these daily disciplines, individuals become unprepared for real hardships. Beyond physical mortifications, obedience is another form of spiritual discipline. Jesus instructed Saint Faustina to justify the opinions of her superiors and confessor. This does not mean excusing wrongdoing, but rather seeking to understand their reasoning with humility. Pride often fuels resistance to obedience. Trusting authority, particularly in spiritual matters, requires surrendering one's ego and recognizing divine guidance. Obedience applies to every aspect of life. Children to parents, employees to employers, parishioners to their spiritual leaders. Each relationship reflects an order meant for growth. Instead of questioning every directive with skepticism, one should discern the wisdom behind it. Even when instructions seem unclear, humility fosters unity rather than rebellion. Murmuring, however, is a direct threat to unity. Gossip and complaints spread like an unseen plague, corroding relationships and inviting spiritual darkness. The enemy often begins with subtle criticisms that seem justified, but unchecked negativity leads to resentment, discord, and a loss of charity. Those who indulge in gossip rarely stop at one person. Anyone who speaks ill of others will inevitably do the same behind one's back. This habit is rooted in self-righteousness, a refusal to confront one's own flaws while focusing on the perceived faults of others. True holiness involves self-examination rather than judgment of those around us. Jesus told Saint Faustina that while others may act as they please, she must remain firm in doing his will. Many justify actions based on societal norms, following trends simply because they are popular. Yet, morality is not dictated by majority opinion. The pursuit of holiness requires standing apart, resisting conformity, and choosing God's path even when it contradicts worldly expectations. Discipline is essential in spiritual life. The saints emphasized the importance of following rules, recognizing them as a path to holiness. Jesus instructed Saint Faustina to observe her rule faithfully, as obedience to divine law strengthens the soul. Without order, spiritual life becomes vulnerable to disorder and temptation. The enemy thrives where discipline is abandoned, pushing individuals towards self-indulgence. The Ten Commandments serve as the foundation for every Christian, but beyond them, personal commitments must also be honored. Fidelity in marriage, honesty in daily life, and perseverance in faith are all forms of obedience. The modern world resists structure, glorifying a false sense of freedom that often leads to moral decay. True liberty is found in submission to God's will, not in defying it. When faced with hardship, Jesus' words to Saint Faustina were clear: respond to suffering with kindness. This is one of the most difficult spiritual practices. Human nature seeks to retaliate when wronged, yet Christ calls for an opposite reaction. Rather than engaging in conflict, one must seek ways to do good, even for those who cause harm. Choosing love over resentment requires humility. It is natural to desire recognition for injustices suffered, but true strength lies in patience and charity. Simple gestures, offering a kind word, showing understanding, or performing an act of service, disarm the adversary. The devil feeds on division, but kindness and self-sacrifice break the cycle of hostility. Surrendering to God's plan isn't always easy, especially when faced with uncertainty. To support you on this journey, we've made an exclusive ebook available for free, but only while supplies last. Feelings should never dictate actions. Many are controlled by emotions, allowing them to override reason and faith. Jesus warned against this, teaching that intelligence and will must guide decisions. Spiritual discipline means acting according to truth, not temporary emotions. Choosing what is right despite personal discomfort is a sign of spiritual maturity. Many people constantly share their struggles, seeking sympathy rather than solutions. True interior strength comes from silent suffering offered to God. While guidance is essential, spreading personal grievances unnecessarily can turn into self-indulgence rather than a search for wisdom. Silence in moments of humiliation or correction is another vital virtue. Jesus, during his passion, remained silent before his accusers. Defending oneself is often an act of pride rather than necessity. Trusting in God's justice brings peace even in the face of criticism. Seeking counsel is important, but it must be done wisely. Jesus advised Saint Faustina to be simple and honest with her confessor, rather than seeking validation from multiple sources. A trusted spiritual guide offers clarity and wisdom, preventing confusion and doubt. Gratitude is one of the most fragile virtues. Many do good tirelessly, expecting at least a word of appreciation, yet often receive nothing in return. Jesus warned Saint Faustina not to be discouraged by ingratitude, as true charity expects no reward. Acts of kindness should be done for love of God, not for human recognition. Those who seek approval for their good deeds risk falling into disappointment. The world frequently repays generosity with indifference. Yet, this does not diminish the value of the act. God sees every sacrifice, and His justice is beyond human understanding. Serving others without expectation strengthens the soul, teaching detachment from worldly validation. Curiosity about the future is another weakness that can lead to spiritual unrest. Jesus instructed not to question the paths He leads one through, but to trust instead. Many struggle with uncertainty, constantly wondering why difficulties arise or when relief will come. This restless search for answers can become an obstacle to faith. Saint Monica, who prayed for decades for her son's conversion, did not demand explanations from God. She persevered, believing that her prayers were heard even when no visible change occurred. Those who dwell on why things happen risk falling into despair. Instead of asking, "Why me?" one should ask, "What does God want to teach me through this?" Moments of discouragement are unavoidable. Jesus acknowledged that boredom and spiritual dryness weaken even the strongest souls. However, His instruction was clear. Do not dwell in discouragement. Instead, retreat into His heart. Faith is not measured by emotion, but by perseverance. Spiritual dryness does not mean abandonment. The greatest saints endured periods of darkness, yet remained faithful. The enemy preys on those who lose their enthusiasm, planting seeds of doubt and apathy. Remaining firm in devotion, even without emotional consolation, is a sign of true faith. Courage is one of the strongest defenses against temptation. The devil targets the weak, exploiting fear and uncertainty. Jesus reminded that fear invites defeat, while confidence in God repels the enemy. The adversary flees from those who resist him with unwavering faith. When life feels overwhelming, having the right wisdom can provide peace and direction. A few number of free copies of our ebook are still available. Secure yours before they're gone. When strong pushback is put up, temptation loses its power. The saints got through hard times not by being strong on their own, but by trusting God completely. This was something that Saint Catherine of Siena really got. When tormented by darkness, she remained steadfast. Only when the trial passed did she realize that Christ had been with her the entire time, silently fighting on her behalf. Relying on emotions can be dangerous in spiritual life. Feelings are unstable and can easily lead to impulsive decisions. Jesus reminded Saint Faustina that true merit lies in the will, not in fleeting emotions. Acting according to principles rather than temporary moods strengthens faith. Even when enthusiasm fades, perseverance in doing what is right is what truly matters. Dependence on spiritual guidance, even in small matters, is another safeguard against error. Jesus emphasized the importance of humility in seeking counsel. Many hesitate to ask for advice in minor decisions, believing them insignificant, yet consulting a trusted guide fosters spiritual discipline. Just as religious orders follow strict rules, lay people benefit from seeking wisdom in their daily lives, whether from spiritual directors, priests, or mentors. A false sense of peace often lulls souls into complacency, Jesus warned against expecting comfort, urging instead to prepare for spiritual battles. The Christian journey is not one of constant ease, but of continuous struggle against temptation. Those who expect a life free of trials risk being unprepared when hardships come. The saints never sought a life of ease. They knew that comfort often weakens the soul, while challenges refine it. Accepting difficulties with courage and trust in God fortifies the spirit. The devil thrives on fear, but faith transforms suffering into victory. Just as warriors train for battle, Christians must strengthen themselves through prayer, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to God's will. Awareness of the spiritual realm is crucial. Jesus reminded that every action is witnessed by heaven and earth. Many fall into sin, believing they are unseen, yet nothing escapes divine attention. Every choice, good or bad, is observed by angels and demons. The enemy rejoices in secrecy, but bringing actions into the light weakens his influence. If this message makes you think, and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. Living with the consciousness of being watched by heaven changes behavior. It instills integrity, encouraging righteousness, even when no one else seems to notice. True virtue is not about appearing holy before others, but maintaining faithfulness regardless of human recognition. Jesus called for his followers to fight with honor, like true knights of faith. Spiritual warfare requires both strength and dignity. Facing trials with courage, resisting temptation without fear, and standing firm in faith reflect the essence of a spiritual warrior. He reassured that no one fights alone. God is always present, leading his soldiers to victory.